See the way her fork stops, halfway between the plate and her lips. The dinner table chatter keeps rising, but she's frozen. Inside, old memories crash through ones nobody else can see. Is she just spaced out? Or is something deeper working beneath the surface? What is trauma really? How does it shape you, even when you think you've moved on? And what does real healing actually look like? We're about to dive into these hidden questions together. Let's talk about those moments that sneak up on you, the ones you wish would just stay buried. Maybe it's a sharp smell, like fresh-cut grass, or a certain ringtone, and suddenly, you're back in a memory you didn't ask for. Your stomach tenses, your chest feels tight, and your thoughts run wild. That's how the past tries to stick around. And if you're like most people, you've spent a long time trying to just ignore it. But letting go isn't about pretending something never happened. It's about facing it head-on and finding a way forward. The first step is really simple to say, but tough to do: acknowledging your pain. A lot of us grow up hearing messages like, just tough it out, it'll pass, or other people have it worse, but none of that actually helps. Imagine Sarah, who spent years avoiding the place where she grew up because of painful memories. Every time someone mentioned her hometown, her nerves sparked, and she instantly found a reason to change the subject. So many of us do the same, right? Those memories are buried, but not gone. To start letting go, you have to allow yourself to remember. This means sitting with that old feeling, not fighting it, not judging it, just noticing it. Let's try something together, right now. Close your eyes for a second. Picture a memory that feels heavy. Maybe it was a big argument, a betrayal, or something you've always blamed yourself for. Notice what happens inside your body. Does your jaw clench? Do your hands get cold? Just take a breath. Don't try to push the feeling away. This kind of gentle attention is called mindfulness. It's not about forcing yourself to relive a bad moment. It's about noticing what's there. When you're mindful, you can catch yourself before your mind spirals into shame or judgment. Imagine you're watching a storm through your window, instead of standing outside in the rain. It's happening, but you're safe. This small shift, watching, not drowning, is where healing begins. Okay, now let's talk about triggers. Those moments when something in the present smashes you right back into the past. Maybe it's the sound of yelling, or a certain song that once played during a horrible night. Your body stiffens, your heart races. Recognizing triggers can feel overwhelming at first, but it's actually the first sign that you can start taking your power back. Jen, for example, realized that whenever her boss spoke to her in a certain tone, she felt the same mix of fear and helplessness she had as a kid. The key was noticing that trigger and giving it a name. She started saying, "Okay, I see you, old fear. You're not in charge anymore." If you want a practical tool for this, try the STOP method. S is for stop, pause just for a moment. T is for take a breath. Slow, deep breaths, calm your nerves. O is for observe. What are you feeling right now? Where do you feel it in your body? And P is for proceed. Choose what you want to do next. Each time you do this, you train your brain to respond, not just react. But sometimes the hardest memories aren't about what someone else did, they're about what you did or didn't do. That's where self-forgiveness comes in. And honestly, it's where a lot of people get stuck. Guilt is heavy. You replay a scene over and over, a harsh word you can't take back, a secret you kept, a choice you regret. You might think, I should have done better, or I'll never be able to make this right. Here's the thing. Carrying guilt doesn't fix the past. It just weighs you down in the present. Try this reflection exercise. Write yourself a letter, as if you were your own best friend. Start with, I see what you went through. I understand why you acted the way you did it. Made sense then, even if it hurts now. Be gentle. Give yourself permission to let go of some of that old guilt. It feels awkward at first, but over time, this kind of self-talk actually changes your brain. Neuroscientists have seen that forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, literally rewires the way you process emotion. If you ever find yourself stuck, remember you're not the only one who struggles with this. I once heard a therapist say, treat yourself like you would a child who made a mistake, correct them, but with kindness, not anger. That single idea can open doors you didn't even know were locked. Of course, sometimes the pain isn't just about mistakes you made, it's about what others did to you. Maybe it's an old friend, a parent, or someone you trusted. The word forgive can sound impossible in those cases. Doesn't forgiving let them off the hook? Actually, forgiving isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about choosing to stop letting their actions control your feelings now. Take the story of Marcus, who carried anger towards his father for decades. His father wasn't there when he needed him most. For years, Marcus thought. If I forgive him, he wins. But slowly, Marcus realized forgiveness was more like releasing himself from a burning rope. The anger was a fire that mostly burned him. When he wrote down everything he wished his father had done, then sat quietly and said to himself, I choose to let this go for me. Something inside loosened. The memories didn't disappear, but they stopped stinging so badly. Forgiveness shows up in small ways too. Maybe you start by letting go of old grudges that eat at you, or you practice saying, that happened, but it's not all of who I am. Another practical step. Choose one person to forgive in your mind, even if you never say it out loud. Notice how your body feels when you try. Sometimes there's relief, sometimes resistance. It's all part of the process. If you want a visual reminder, try this. Find a small stone, hold it in your hand, and imagine it carries one of your old hurts. When you feel ready, put the stone on the ground or toss it into some water. It's a way to mark the moment you're choosing to let go, even if just a little. Symbolic actions like this can be surprisingly powerful and help you see your progress. Now let's flip the script. What would your life look like if you truly let go? Imagine waking up without that tightness in your chest or constant second-guessing. Maybe instead of flinching at every reminder of the past, you feel a little more peace, a little more freedom. Maria started visualizing herself after healing, smiling as she walked her dog, laughing during coffee with a friend, falling asleep without obsessive thoughts. She wasn't there yet, but picturing it gave her hope. You can do the same. Try this simple visualization. Close your eyes. Picture the best version of yourself, how you walk, how you talk, even how you breathe. What does your day look like if you're no longer tied down by old pain? Hold that image. Every time you face a setback, go back to that vision for a moment. It's not about ignoring problems, it's about remembering the life you're moving toward. Letting go is not quick, and it's not clean. Some days you'll feel like you're finally free, and the next day an old wound aches again. That's normal. Healing isn't a straight line. It's more like waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes crashing. But each moment you face the past with kindness and patience builds your strength for the future. So here's the big question. When you finally start loosening your grip on old hurts, how does your everyday life change? What happens when you're not carrying that weight around all the time? Well, that leads to one of the biggest shifts. You'll notice your emotions start working for you, not against you. And that's where things really get interesting. In our next section, we'll explore exactly how your emotional life transforms, step by step, once you've begun to let go of the past. Think about the last time something small set you off: a spilled coffee, a rude text, or a tough day at work. Maybe your heart jumped, your hands shook, and suddenly your voice was sharper than you wanted. It's easy to wonder, why can't I control my emotions? The truth is, when you've gone through trauma, your emotional system works a little differently. It's like your brain is always on high alert, ready to sound the alarm at the tiniest hint of danger. But as you heal, something shifts. Emotions start to feel less like unpredictable explosions and more like waves you can ride. Let's meet Devin. For years, even the smallest disagreement sent him spiraling. If his partner forgot to wash the dishes, he'd snap. His body would buzz with anger, but underneath, he was scared. Scared of being ignored. Scared of not mattering. At first, he hated that about himself. He thought, I'm just broken. But then, with time and practice, he started noticing these patterns before they took over. That was the start of real change. When you're working on healing, the first positive sign is steadier emotions, even if your outside world is still a mess. Things that used to feel huge start looking smaller. Picture Casey, who'd flinch with anxiety every time a phone alarm rang. After a few months of therapy and self-care, she realized her heart wasn't racing as fast. She was still nervous, but not as overwhelmed. That slowly growing calm, even in stressful moments, is proof your mind is repairing itself. One reason this happens is because of how trauma affects your brain. When you're in survival mode, your body pumps out chemicals, adrenaline, and cortisol, the stress hormones, at the slightest sign of trouble. Your amygdala, the brain's fear center, stays on high alert. But as you practice healing habits, talking about your feelings, practicing mindfulness, getting enough sleep, your brain starts connecting things differently. New neural pathways form. Your emotional alarm system stops going off at every sound. So how do you get to that steadier ground? A big part of it is learning to name your feelings, as basic as that sounds. Instead of just feeling bad, you start to notice, I'm anxious, or I'm sad, or I'm scared. Putting words to your emotions gives you a sense of control. Next time you feel that emotional surge, say it aloud. I'm angry right now, and my jaw feels tight. The act of naming slows down your brain and gives you room to respond instead of react. People often reach for old coping methods, slamming doors, biting nails, zoning out on their phones because they don't have new tools yet. But as you heal, you experiment with healthier ways to manage tough feelings. One favorite is deep breathing. Try this. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4 again, the box breathing method. When panic swells, breathing like this can quickly bring your brain back online. Journaling is another simple but powerful way to process emotions. Let's say you're angry after a bad meeting at work. Instead of lashing out or blaming yourself, you grab a notebook and start writing. As the words spill out, I felt invisible. I'm tired of not being noticed. You're making sense of what's going on inside. This turns big, cloudy feelings into something clear and manageable. As you keep practicing these skills, you start catching problems before they explode. Olivia used to jump straight to yelling when her teens argued with her. Now, she notices the first flicker of irritation, takes a breath, and asks herself, what do I need right now? Maybe it's a drink of water, or just a minute in another room. Sometimes, she even tells them, I feel like I'm about to lose my temper, so I'm going to cool off. That honesty has helped her kids. Too, they see what it looks like to handle emotions, not just bottle them up or let them explode. Another sign of emotional progress is that overwhelming days aren't as common as before. Remember Michael, who used to spend whole evenings replaying embarrassing moments from the day, cringing in bed for hours? Now, when something goes wrong, he R's himself. Recognize, reframe, and release. He recognizes when he's stuck, reframes the moment. Maybe the meeting didn't go great, but I learned something, and then releases it with a favorite TV show or a walk around the block. One of the coolest changes? You bounce back faster. Let's say you have a huge argument in the morning. Before, it would have ruined your whole week. Now, maybe you're still upset, but you find yourself coming back to center by lunchtime. You accept that not every day will be perfect, and that doesn't mean you're starting from zero again. Sometimes, emotional growth means seeing setbacks as teachers, not monsters. Maybe you mess up. Maybe you snap at your partner, or send a regrettable text. Instead of diving into shame, you think, all right, that happened. Why? What will I try next time? This gentle self-check-in is a giant leap from the old self-criticism. Let's unpack what this looks like in daily life. Picture waking up late on a rushed weekday. Before, you might have skipped breakfast, ranted in traffic, and felt frazzled for hours. After building regulation skills, you notice your mood first thing, the tightness in your chest or the tension in your shoulders. You pause, take a deep breath at a red light, and remind yourself the world won't end if things run behind. Instead of blasting the horn at someone who cuts you off, you let it go. Your whole day shifts, just from those tiny moments of noticing and choosing new responses. Or, think about group settings, like a family dinner. Maybe in the past, one critical comment would sink your mood for hours. Now, you spot that old familiar sting as it bubbles up. But instead of letting it color your night, you acknowledge it quietly. Maybe even excuse yourself for a moment of fresh air. When you come back, you're calmer, more present, and able to enjoy the rest of the evening. It's not that triggers disappear, but you carry a new sense of control that lets you recover quickly. Peers and loved ones often notice before you do. Picture a coworker saying, "Hey, you seem a lot calmer lately, everything okay?" Or a close friend admitting, "I used to worry about walking on eggshells when things got tense, but now, you just handle it." Those bits of feedback might surprise you, but they're proof of real progress. And as emotional steadiness grows, it becomes easier to offer support to others, too. You're not just tending your own sparks, you can recognize and respect what people around you are feeling, without getting swept up in their storm. Someone having a tough day? Now, instead of absorbing their stress like a sponge, you offer a kind word, set a boundary, or just listen without judgment. Emotional regulation isn't about never feeling sad, angry, or hurt again. It's about building a toolkit of habits that help you ride out those waves instead of being knocked under every time. Healthy coping tools can include listening to music, calling a friend, drawing, doing a quick meditation, or even just stepping outside for some fresh air. The goal isn't shutting off your emotions, it's letting them have their say, then deciding for yourself what happens next. One unexpected gift after healing? Greater self-awareness. Let's say your heart pounds before a difficult conversation. Your palms start sweating, and you start talking really fast. But now, you notice all these warning signs early. Instead of blowing up or shutting down, you tell yourself, I'm feeling nervous. That makes sense. I can handle this. It's simple, but it breaks the cycle. So what's it like, living with steadier emotions? It's the difference between feeling tossed around by a raging sea and feeling like you finally have a sturdy boat. Maybe the waves are still there, but you're in control. You're more patient, more able to enjoy good moments, and less likely to get stuck in old patterns. But that's not even the strangest part. When your emotions settle down, you start seeing big changes in your relationships too. With clearer feelings, you can set healthier boundaries and attract the right kind of people into your circle. So how do these new boundaries and relationships really change your life? Let's go there next. Let's take a moment and really think about the people you let close to you. Who do you call when you're having a rough day? Who drains your energy, and who leaves you smiling? Healing from trauma shifts your view of relationships in major ways, sometimes quietly, sometimes with huge, life-changing decisions. It all starts with boundaries. Growing up, you might have been taught that saying no is rude, or that you should put others first, no matter what. Maybe you learned to keep the peace at any cost, or you stayed silent to avoid conflict. For people with trauma, boundaries get blurry. You end up overgiving, hiding your feelings, or letting others decide everything for you. So let's flip that script with a simple but powerful practice. Start saying no in low-stakes situations. Picture Sam, at work. Before healing, every request got a yes, even if he was drowning in to-dos. Saying no to picking up an extra shift felt impossible. But one day, he tried. I can't this time, maybe next week. His heart raced. No one yelled, no one fired him. The world kept turning. Each little no built muscles for bigger boundary setting later. Boundaries aren't just about what you say. They're about what your body screams at you before your mind can catch up. Pay attention to the signals. Does your chest feel heavy around someone? Do you clench your jaw, tense your shoulders, or get a sudden headache? Your body's telling you the truth, even when your brain wants to ignore it. Next time you're around someone who drains you, do a body scan, notice where you feel tense, and what thoughts pop into your head. Take Mia, for example. She always felt sick after phone calls with her cousin, her stomach twisted in knots, her heart pounded. She realized that every conversation left her feeling smaller and more anxious. So she started writing down what she noticed. I feel tense. I don't want to pick up the phone. That physical record gave her written proof. Her boundaries needed some work. Sometimes, those physical sensations can really surprise you. Maybe you suddenly feel your hands go cold when a certain coworker walks into the break room. Or your voice gets really quiet when a friend starts joking at your expense. These signs are easy to overlook, but they're like little warning bells from your body, begging you to pay attention. Think about the opposite, too. Who lights you up? After hanging out with certain people, do you feel safe, energized, or deeply seen? Tasha kept a list in her journal. Coffee with Mariah made her feel like she could breathe again. After lunch with James, she wanted to dance in her car. And notice not just the emotional shifts, but the physical ones too. Maybe you sit up taller around these people, your laughter comes easier, or your chest feels lighter leaving the conversation. Making a list of safe people reminds you what real support feels like, so you know where to invest your energy. But sometimes, you need more than a gentle reminder. That's when a boundary script comes in. This is a short line you practice, so it rolls off your tongue when you need it. Try, I need some time alone right now, or I can't talk about this, or even just, not today. Practice saying it in the mirror, or write it down until it feels comfortable. It might feel awkward or fake at first, like you're reading from a script in a school play, but that's normal. Anna practiced her scripts while brushing her teeth, whispering, "Hey, I need to get some rest. Can we talk tomorrow?" And by the time she actually said it to her roommate, she didn't stumble. That little win boosted her confidence for next time. Real-life boundaries don't always go smoothly. Maybe someone gets upset when you stop doing them favors. Maybe a friend pushes back when you cancel a plan. That's hard, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually a sign you're changing the rules. Nora ended a toxic friendship that had dragged her down for years. At first, she felt terrified and guilty. She questioned herself. Am I too sensitive? Am I overreacting? But after a few weeks, she realized she smiled more, slept better, and felt lighter, like a huge weight had lifted. Sometimes, ending a harmful relationship is the bravest thing you'll ever do. It could be a partner, a friend, or even a family member. It's scary, but every time you say, "I deserve better," you rewrite your story. Healing means you start choosing yourself, no matter who disagrees, and you might notice that the effects ripple into your daily routines. Emily noticed it in tiny moments, how much more she enjoyed her morning coffee after telling her pushy neighbor she didn't have time to chat every morning, or how peaceful her evenings became when she turned off group texts after dinner, instead of getting drawn into drama. Sometimes, boundaries are about everyday choices that give you back your time, space, and peace. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It creates space for real connection. When you stop people-pleasing, you have more energy for the people and projects that matter. Even simple boundaries like protecting your weekends, saying no to late-night texts, or carving out quiet time for yourself start to add up. Slowly, you realize your needs are just as important as anyone else's. What about those people who try to break your new boundaries? You'll meet them. Some people love the old version of you, the one who never complained, always said yes, and never asked for anything. When you change, they might pout, guilt trip, or even disappear. As hard as it is, that's not a loss. It's a clearing. The friends who respect your limits, who check in with you, who support your growth, they're worth holding on to. Everyone else? Let them go. Reflect on what it feels like after you enforce a boundary, even a small one. Maybe relief floods your chest, or you sleep better at night. Maybe you feel proud, like you kept a promise to yourself. Jax remembered the first time he told his mom, "I'm not talking about this tonight, Mom." He was nervous and shaky, but later, he felt more like himself than ever before. Building new, healthy relationships often means relearning what you deserve. At first, you might not even recognize healthy love or friendship. It feels strange, even boring, if you're used to drama and chaos. But as you heal, safe people become easier to spot. They listen when you speak, ask how you're feeling, and cheer for your happiness, not just their own. Focus on these relationships and let them teach you what's possible. With time, something amazing happens. Your boundaries start feeling more natural. You don't replay every conversation in your head or panic after saying no. Instead, you find yourself making choices out of freedom, not fear. The old you, who tiptoed through every relationship, starts to fade, replaced by a version who trusts their own feelings and decisions. Over time, boundaries help you trust yourself. You no longer need to guess what's too much or not enough. You know what you stand for, and you're ready to stand firm. Each no you say, each line you draw, tells your nervous system, you're safe, and you're the one steering your ship. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. Better boundaries aren't just about keeping pain out, they let joy in, too. As you stop guarding yourself from harm all the time, you have energy left for laughter, hope, and meaningful experiences. So what happens when you open the door to new joy, old passions, and dreams you thought were out of reach? That's where we're heading next. Let's imagine you're walking outside on a sunny morning. The sky is a bright blue, birds are squawking overhead, and there's a cool breeze brushing your cheeks. Maybe, for the first time in ages, you feel a tiny spark of excitement. That's what rediscovering joy after trauma can feel like. At first, it's small, almost like a whisper, but it's real. A lot of people think healing is just about stopping the pain, but true healing also means opening up to good things, laughter, hope, and that itch to try new things. It's not always big bursts of happiness. Sometimes it's just, "Wow, I actually like this song," or "That ice cream tastes amazing," or "I finished a puzzle and I'm proud." These moments matter more than you think. Remember Jade? She always loved painting as a kid, but after some rough years, her brushes gathered dust. She told herself she didn't have time, or that starting again would feel weird. Then, during her healing process, she decided to pull those brushes out. The smell of paint, the cold touch of canvas under her fingers, it all felt brand new and comfortingly familiar at the same time. With each brushstroke, worry faded and wonder took its place. Rekindling a forgotten hobby can light up hidden corners of your heart. That first swipe of blue felt like a door opening, Jade said, tears in her eyes but a little smile on her lips. Even if the painting was a mess, I was proud just for starting. Sometimes joy is rediscovered in surprising ways. Take Marco, who loved music but hadn't touched a guitar in years. One rainy afternoon, he dusted off his old guitar and strummed a few clumsy chords. The sound was a bit out of tune, but the vibrations in his fingers made him grin. As he played, memories floated back, friends singing along, late-night jam sessions. For Marco, each note was like shaking hands with an old friend. It's not just about picking up old hobbies, trying new things opens doors, too. One night, Alex went to a local art show, even though crowds made them nervous. At first, their hands shook, but soon they were caught up in bright colors and loud laughter. Later, Alex tried a spicy curry for the first time, which set their mouth on fire and made them laugh until they cried. They texted a friend right after, "I think my taste buds are still sizzling. Is this what living feels like?" Every new experience, good or awkward, reminded them that life still had surprises worth showing up for. You'll notice hope sneaking back in, almost like the sun after a long stretch of clouds. Maybe you start looking forward to Saturday morning walks. Maybe you plan a short trip, set a goal, or even just daydream about something fun. Sarah found herself getting a rush, just planning a friend's birthday cake, counting down the days with a smile. It's tiny things, like sticking post-its of fun ideas on your mirror, that build up the sense that there are reasons to get out of bed. Another powerful sign of healing is setting personal goals again, not just surviving, but deciding what you want from life. Think about Luis, who started running again after years away. He picked a local 5K as a goal. The first morning, he barely made it out the door. But soon, the rhythm of his breath, the beat of his shoes on the trail, and the early morning colors became their own reward. He realized that chasing goals, even tiny ones, fired up new energy and confidence. He taped his race number to the fridge as a reminder of what he achieved and joked, "Next, maybe the Olympics. Well, or at least the donut shop 10K. Sometimes joy is stitched into the small stuff, standing by an open window and feeling a breeze, finding a perfect song for your drive home, grabbing coffee with a friend who makes you laugh until your stomach hurts. Healing cracks you open to these moments, even if you didn't think you had room for them before. Let's not forget the senses, what fresh-cut grass smells like after rain, the comfort of a fluffy blanket, the taste of rich hot chocolate on your tongue. These sensory moments sneak up on you, reminding you you're alive. That's why stories like Mia's are powerful. She started trailing her fingers over different fabrics in a craft store, just to see which felt smooth or fuzzy. That simple habit made her days brighter, like a secret trick for feeling happy. You might feel silly giving yourself credit for little wins. Do it anyway. Layla started writing down wins each night, sent a scary email, tried a new recipe, called my cousin just to talk. Each victory, no matter how small, built her confidence. Don't wait for other people to cheer, you get to be your own loudest fan. Sometimes she'd read her list back and laugh, realizing, I feel like a 6-year-old with a sticker chart, but it works. Of course, some days, joy might feel way out of reach. It's normal for dark days to pop up again. When that happens, go looking for micro-joys, tiny sparks to light your path. Maybe it's a silly meme, the taste of fresh bread, or the way your favorite sweater feels. These moments can't erase all pain, but they remind you life always offers something good. The real magic happens when you realize joy and struggle can exist side by side. You might be grieving, anxious, or still hurt, but you can still feel happy for a minute. You can feel proud of yourself and still be scared of the next step. This messiness is proof you're alive, not broken. Healing can also mean finding purpose. For some people, that's helping others, volunteering, sharing their story, or just being a safe place for someone else. For others, it's about creating something new, music, poetry, a garden, or maybe your purpose is just learning to love yourself a little more each week. Think about what gives you energy. When you're done doing it, are you more tired or more awake? Follow the things that energize you. That's usually where your purpose is hiding. Sometimes, finding joy means taking risks again, signing up for a dance class, applying for a job, saying yes to a blind date. You won't know how these little chances might change your life until you try. Abby started saying yes to invitations again. At first, she felt awkward. But pretty soon, her world got brighter and bigger, one tiny risk at a time. All of this, the joy, the hope, the growing purpose, it adds up. Slowly, you trust smiles that come without sadness attached. You wake up ready to greet the day, not just survive it. There might always be tough memories, but there's more room for good ones too. And here's a fun thing: over time, the people around you start to notice. Friends might comment, "You're laughing more," or "It's good to see you out and about again." Sometimes they'll even ask what changed, and all you can say is, "I started looking for the good, even when it felt tiny." And this leads to maybe the biggest lesson of all. Healing isn't about reaching a perfect finish line or erasing every bad thing that happened. It's about holding all of it, the pain and the hope, the struggle and the laughter, and choosing to move forward anyway. But as you look ahead, you might wonder, what does it actually take to keep growing, even when the journey gets rough again? Where do you turn when old fears pop up or you need help? And how do you keep celebrating progress, even on the slowest days? Let's talk about keeping that healing journey alive, one day, one step, one small joy at a time. So here's the truth nobody really tells you up front. Healing doesn't follow a straight line. It zigs and zags, full of false starts and surprising victories. Some days, you'll feel like you've conquered your biggest fears. Other days, an old memory or feeling rises out of nowhere, and you wonder if you've made any progress at all. But every step, forward or backward, is part of your story. That's what makes healing brave and real, and truly your own. Let's pause for a second and look back at everything you've done. Even just in this video, you showed up, you listened. Maybe you tried a new reflection, or took a mental inventory of your boundaries and relationships. That alone takes guts. Maybe today, your victory is simply breathing through a tough feeling without running away from it. Or maybe you recognized an old trigger, but you didn't let it control the rest of your day. These are major wins, even if they seem small compared to someone else's highlight reel. You might wonder, how do I know if I'm really moving forward? Here's one sign. You notice new things about yourself. Maybe you catch yourself before you react. Maybe you say no once without apologizing. Maybe you laugh a little louder or dream a little bigger. Growth usually shows up quietly at first, but the more you notice, the more it snowballs. Setbacks? They're part of the deal. You won't get it right every time. You might lose your temper, slip back into old habits, or say yes when you wish you'd said no. When that happens, stop and remember that setbacks aren't proof you failed. They're proof you're trying. Each stumble is a lesson. Why did I react that way? What do I need next time? Instead of beating yourself up, treat yourself like you would a close friend, with a little grace and encouragement. Don't try to do it all alone. Healing works better with support. Sometimes, it's a friend who sits with you during a rough day. Sometimes it's a therapist, coach, or online community who actually understands. If you're scared to reach out, start small. A text, a call, or even an anonymous message in a support group. You're not a burden. People want to help, and the bravest step is just starting that conversation. As you travel this path, find rituals that help you check in with yourself. Maybe you journal a few lines every night about how you're feeling. Maybe you take a walk in nature every weekend, or set aside one afternoon just for your favorite hobby. These little moments of self-care aren't selfish. They're how you build resilience, so the next wave doesn't knock you over. Celebrate all kinds of wins. Cleaning your room, attending a family party without leaving early, or simply waking up on a tough morning. Healing is personal. Your timeline won't match anyone else's, and that's actually a good thing. Compare yourself only to who you were yesterday, not who you think you should be by now. Sometimes, what seems like the smallest bit of growth is actually the biggest shift. Trusting yourself, asking for help, or forgiving a tiny mistake. Keep reflecting, not just on hard days, but on days that feel a little bit lighter. Regularly ask yourself, what's better than it was 6 months ago? What do I want more of? And don't be afraid to adjust your course. Life changes. Goals adjust. Some things you thought were important might fade, while others blaze into focus. Above all, stick with the habits that help you stay grounded, hopeful, and connected. Healing never means giving up on growth. It means leaning in, even on days you wish you could give up, and knowing you've got what it takes to weather whatever comes next. So here we are at the end of this conversation, but not the end of your story. The journey of healing is yours, and yours alone. It isn't always easy, but day by day, it gets brighter and richer. The real question is, what small act of healing will you choose next? And what might your life look like if you keep moving forward, one gentle, hopeful step at a time?